Hey guys, it's Brett. Welcome to my channel. So, I had intended last week. I said I wanted to do like kind of a weekly check-in on the Booker reading list and kind of where I was. So, all good intentions to get through a few more books and talk about them, and then I didn't. And here's why: because I read one book this week from the Booker, and it floored me. And by that I mean I have you ever read a book that you've started to read, and when you're in the book, you're so invested and you're so into it that you really don't want it to end? The kind of book where you think, how can I prolong this as long as possible? That's what happened with this book. Okay, the first time that ever happened to me, it was A Prayer for Owen Meany by John Irving. And I remember getting into it and being so out of my mind crazy for these characters and little Owen Meany that I thought, I can't leave these people right now. I can't finish the last page and never have the experience of experiencing these people for the first time. Um, I had it a little bit with A Little Life, although that also vacillated between I can't wait to get through this, because if I have to watch that character of Jude go through one more horrible, abusive, awful thing, I don't know that I'm going to be able to stand it. But you get my thing. Like, I think we've all had those books where you're like, you can't wait to get back to, and at the same time, you don't want to leave. And that was this. So this book, when I tell you what I'm talking about, was Maps of Our Spectacular Bodies by Maddie Mortimer. Um, Maddie Mortimer is young. I think she's 27 years old. It's weird having read this almost shortly after Nightcrawling, and these two very young writers. Of course, she's older than Layla Motley, who is really young, but still, when I read this and the depth that this woman was reaching down into because of the subject matter, I was blown away. So the book centers on a woman, an English woman named Leah, who is married she is a children's book illustrator, and her husband is a professor, Harry, and they have a daughter named Iris, who is 12 years old and in the midst of, middle school, which for anybody who's ever had children is truly one of the rings of hell in terms of adolescence. Um, so, but she finds out that she has cancer and she is dying. So it's that journey, but that's the present. The past, which the narrative goes back and forth between, is Leah's growing up with her parents. Her father was a minister, and her mother, a minister's wife. Um, and when she's young, in her own early teenage years, a young man comes to stay with them who needs help, and he goes to this minister to say, would you take me in? And they do, and he almost becomes like a member of the family, and Leah and this boy Matthew become lovers, and it's a truly developmental part of her life, and really kind of sets a path for who she becomes and their own relationship, which is pretty amazing. So that's kind of the back and forth. Now, coupled with that, and I'm stopping because I just thought how she decided to do this, and it's so incredible, is there are chapters dedicated to the cancer itself. The cancer is portrayed as a series of characters, kind of like an ensemble, almost like a Greek chorus of sorts, who talk about her, what they're going to do, how they're planning on attacking her body. Sometimes it got a little esoteric, and I was like, can't really key into this, but I just kind of kept going because I understood what it was. And then as the book progresses and the disease progresses, these characters come even more to the forefront, and they become so in sync with Leah that they're all one and the same, and it's very so it all it has a lot more clarity as it goes through. And by the last 50 pages, I thought, oh my God, this is genius. Um, there's probably also something to say that, like, I love a book that can, take me out emotionally, and this certainly had me doing the ugly cry a couple times. But the, her writing, also like Layla Motley's, who wrote Nightcrawling, is nothing short of poetry. Okay, so I want to read you this little passage, and in this scene, Iris, her daughter, and Leah are talking, and this is when Iris finds out that the cancer has come back. Iris's favorite color from ages 5 to 6 had been pink. She had liked it so much that she insisted she only eat pink foods, drink pink drinks. She wanted her insides to turn a bright, shocking fuchsia, and Leah had said, well, for that I prescribe beetroot. Iris remembered staring at her shit in the toilet bowl after 2 weeks of beetroot, feeling superhuman. But pink was just a phase, just a gesture of something or somewhere Iris wanted to get to. She moved through and out of it a little wiser, a little more sensitive to the casualty of color and consumption. And now, at her best age yet, it was yellow. Leah liked this phase more. It felt grown up, bold. She drew yellow often as the fluid and tangible thing that it was. Sometimes a blot of gold light, a sharp buttercup tongue, a smudge of a small girl holding in a street lamp. All the codes around the house became yellow. The Wi-Fi, the house alarm. Leah would lace out yellow word talks at night, discuss its pigment science and entomology. She derives from the Proto-Indo-European root gel, to shine, the mother of some magnificent words such as glance, gloaming, glitch, gloat, glee, gall, glisten, chloris, chloroform, melancholy. It's back, Leah said one pocketless Sunday to Apache wall, while the two of them were painting Iris's room yellow. She felt so cowardly, so gutless, so sorry. Iris nodded solemnly. I thought so. She leant her head lightly against Leah's arm for a moment before reaching down to dip her finger in the yellow paint. She stretched her arm up, marked her mother's forehead like a blessing, and then did the same to herself. Leah smiled sadly, and they both continued to paint with their matching triangle forehead tattoos and their individual rollers, pushing, coating, sponging harder with every stroke as if they could erase all the facts and start again. Once they were done, they stepped back and stared at their work. It's so garish and satisfying, Leah said. Iris grinned and wiped away strands of sweaty hair stuck to the sides of her face. What color would you be? I don't know, maybe brown or like a purple gray. Iris looked up at the ceiling and laughed one of her wide-open golden laughs and said, No. You're just saying that because you're old. Old people can be bright too. That night in bed, still marked with her yellow blessing, Leah said, She's amazing. Harry said, Yeah, she's all right. He smiled widely and pressed his palm to his wife's cheek. She kissed his wrist and said, I don't want to die. He took a heavy breath. It smelt of earth. Every Sunday, Harry would fall asleep with stains of their garden still on his hands. It's important not to put gloves on, he'd say. It's important to feel the soil. You let the dirt get under your fingernails. You need to hear through tips of skin what it is the world wants. Leah enjoyed the sight of him laboring over their tiny slice of land. Harry pressed his lips to her neck and then her earlobe, and he tried not to scream. It was the first time either of them had ever mentioned death out loud, that crawling, colorless word. It seemed to move between them like a changeling, unfamiliar, restless, new. Leah lay awake with her eyes closed, feeling death's breath on her face, his probing, chubby fingers playing with her eyelashes. She listed off yellow things to keep afloat. Bananas, the sun, egg yolk, cheese, autumn leaves, rubber ducks, Sundays, the waterproof plasters in the bathroom, butter, patience, lemons, Iris's blazing spirit. This book had also, in the final, I almost said final act, but final third, a surprise for me, which I never saw coming. And I thought it was great. I thought the book was so smart, so profound. The things that she said about life, about living, about death. I loved this quote where she says, illness does many things, she thought, but perhaps most sick, most grotesque, is its way of reminding you that death and dignity have as much to do with economy as they do with luck, that sometimes life can be bought and sold. I don't know if this will end up in the shortlist. I certainly hope it would. But I have to say, even if you're not something who is interested in the Booker, if you just want something that is incredibly moving, profound, meaningful, rich storytelling, with what I felt was an abundance of payoff in the end, I would absolutely say, read this book. I just loved it. If you like what you saw today, please like and subscribe below. And thank you for stopping by, and I will see you all soon.